All right, let's open a case file on a mystery I think you'll find familiar. It's that feeling of being completely wiped out, even on days when you've hardly moved a muscle. We're calling it phantom fatigue, and in this explainer, we're going to follow the evidence to figure out what's really going on. I mean, this is the core of it, right? It's that strange, frustrating feeling of being mentally fried after a day that, on paper, should have been relaxing. You didn't run a marathon, you didn't do any hard labor, but you feel totally drained. If that sounds like your life, I want you to know you're not alone. This is a real thing, and it's not just in your head. And here's the most important part. That exhaustion you're feeling is a real, measurable, biological response. This is not a weakness. It's not a lack of willpower. Scientists have been tracking the clues, and they found the culprits. The evidence is in, and it points directly at our digital lives. So, let's look at our first piece of evidence. It's something we all do, probably hundreds of times a day, without even thinking about it: scrolling. It feels so passive, right? But your brain is doing an incredible amount of work behind the scenes. Think of it like a hidden tax you pay every single time you flick your thumb. That hidden tax has a name: switch costs. See, we love to talk about multitasking, but our brains can't actually do it. What we're really doing is switching between tasks incredibly fast. And every single time your brain jumps from an email to a meme to a news alert to a text message, it pays a price, a real biological price in the form of energy. Let's get specific about that cost. Each switch literally burns glucose. That's your brain's fuel. This drains the energy from your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the CEO of your brain. It handles focus, decision-making, and self-control. So all that mindless scrolling isn't rest at all. It's an intense workout that leaves your brain's command center totally exhausted. And I mean, just look at the hard data here. It's pretty shocking. When you're in that rapid switching mode, your productivity can drop by as much as 40%. You make way more mistakes. And maybe worst of all, you don't even remember what you just saw. Your brain simply can't store information properly when it's being pulled in a dozen different directions. And get this, 23 minutes. On average, that's how long it can take to get back into a deep state of focus after just one little interruption. 23 minutes to recover from a quick glance at a notification. Now, multiply that by all the times you get distracted in a day. Yeah, you can see why you feel like you got nothing done. So, okay, clue number one is that we're burning through our brain's fuel supply. But that's only part of the story. Let's move on to our second clue, because it turns out that constant flood of information is also kicking our ancient survival instincts into overdrive. You have to remember, your nervous system is old. It evolved to handle clear and present dangers, like a lion in the grass. The problem is it can't tell the difference between a lion and an angry comment, a stressful news headline, or just the endless fire hose of information on your feed. It sees it all as a persistent, low-grade threat. And this sets off a very specific chain reaction in your body. It starts with the digital overload. Your brain perceives a threat and hits the panic button, activating something called the HPA axis. That, in turn, floods your system with cortisol, the famous stress hormone. And finally, your fight or flight system kicks in. And the real problem? It never turns off. When that stress response is always on, it leads to something scientists call allostatic load. The best way to think about it is like constantly revving your car's engine. You're not actually going anywhere, but you're causing serious wear and tear on the internal machinery. That's exactly what we're doing to our bodies and brains. And the long-term effects of this are no joke. We're not just talking about feeling stressed. We're talking about real physical damage, chronic inflammation, terrible sleep, and it can even make it harder for your brain to create new cells. So let's be clear, our digital habits are directly causing a state of chronic physiological stress. Okay, so we've got a metabolic energy drain and a chronic stress response. Clue number 3 is how the very design of our digital world is hacking our brain's reward system, making it almost impossible for us to just relax and enjoy normal, everyday life. Just look at this comparison for a second. On the left, a slot machine. On the right, your social feed. They are built on the exact same addictive psychological principle. It's called variable ratio reinforcement. You pull the lever, or you swipe your thumb, and you never know what you're going to get. It might be nothing, or it might be a little jackpot. And that unpredictability is what keeps you hooked. So this constant stream of unpredictable little rewards, it just overwhelms your brain's dopamine system. And your brain, trying to protect itself, does something pretty dramatic. It starts to numb itself by reducing the sensitivity of its own dopamine receptors. It's a defense mechanism called downregulation. And this is the end result. Because your brain's reward system has been blunted, it now needs bigger, faster, more intense hits of stimulation to feel anything at all. This is what some researchers call popcorn brain. Slow, quiet activities like reading a book or taking a walk in the park, they just can't compete anymore. They feel boring because they don't give your brain the jolts it's now wired to expect. So let's recap our investigation. Our digital lives are draining our brain's energy, triggering our stress response, and hijacking our reward system. It's time to connect these clues and deliver the final verdict. And it might surprise you, doing nothing isn't laziness. It's a biological requirement. By filling every single empty moment with stimulation, checking our phones in an elevator, listening to a podcast while we cook dinner, we are actively preventing our brains from doing essential maintenance work. We are literally silencing a part of our brain that is critical for rest and repair. That part of the brain is called the default mode network, or DMN. You can think of it as your brain's background processing mode. It only really switches on when you're not focused on the outside world, when you're daydreaming or just letting your mind wander. And the work that the DMN does is absolutely crucial. This is where you actually process your day and consolidate memories. It's where you plan for the future, develop your sense of who you are, think about your relationships, and have your most creative ideas. Basically, it's where you make sense of your own life, and it cannot turn on while you're staring at a screen. This right here makes the conflict perfectly clear. Your brain basically has two modes that fight for control. When your always-on brain is active, paying attention to the outside world, your default mode network is shut off. To get all those benefits of rest and repair, you have to give your always-on brain break. The problem is our modern world keeps us stuck on the left side of this chart. And that leads us to the final, unavoidable verdict of this investigation. Taking time to be bored, to be quiet, to just let your mind wander, this is not a luxury. It's not some trendy wellness fad. It is a non-negotiable biological requirement for your brain to actually repair, process, and heal. So the case of the phantom fatigue, it's solved. The evidence is overwhelming. The hidden energy tax of constant task switching, the chronic stress from being always on, the hijacked reward system from addictive apps, and the silencing of our brain's essential repair crew, it all proves one thing. We are pushing our biology way past its limits. And that leaves us with one final and frankly pretty unsettling question to think about. We've seen the hard science. We know our brains have very real biological limits. So why are the digital tools that now run our lives all built to be completely limitless?